All right, so let me now go on to the other big issue that is worrying the markets and weighing on the minds of investors, and that is with regards to the lawsuits that are currently pending. Let me start with UPaid. There was talks. Openly, the company did admit, the management did admit that you would like to do an out-of-court settlement. UPaid, I understand, has been playing ball and then not being playing ball. What is the current situation as far as talks with regards to mediation with UPaid are concerned?
I think, Shireen, the way the legal systems work, we can decide to, play the game of brinkmanship and, or, go through the trials, in public.
Which you don't want to do, clearly.
Right. I mean, at this stage, the fact is that they are a much smaller company.
Yeah.
I mean, they can tire themselves
Publicly
out.
asking for a much larger figure to the tune of $1 billion, which I understand Mahindra Satyam is in no mood to actually even discuss that number. We understand the number is much, much lower, perhaps even in double digits. So where do things currently stand as far as the UPaid liabilities are concerned?
All I can tell you is that it's not over till it is over.
That's true.
Right? And none of us is sitting in our living rooms or in our offices and not talking about it.
Okay.
So we are in active dialogue.
Huh.
We are in active discussions, and hopefully, we will, save some of the legal fees that both of us are paying.
How soon are you hoping for a breakthrough on this? Be realistic, give us a realistic picture, because as you said, conversations have been continuing in boardrooms, in drawing rooms. Where do things currently stand? How hopeful are you of a breakthrough and in terms of an out-of-court settlement with UPaid?
Shireen, I think the rubber has to meet the road sooner than you think.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying this is very clear. Either we go in for a public trial in September or we come to some kind of a settlement before September. So, things are either too close or too far.
Okay.
And we will know about it in 6 weeks.
All right, we'll know about it in 6 weeks. Let me talk to you about the class action lawsuits, because we spoke with Mr. Vineet Nair when he was actually down here meeting with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The suggestion seemed to be that you would like the government to be in some manner connected to the class action lawsuits. The government then later clarified and said it has no part to play as far as Mahindra Satyam's class action lawsuits are concerned. Where do things currently stand as far as class action lawsuits are concerned, and what do you really expect from the government?
I think, again, look at it. I mean, we are a victim of circumstances out here. And as far as we are concerned, if at all, the people who need to defend against these class action suits are either the auditors or the bankers who were involved in the due diligence of this company, or the law firms which are involved in the due diligence of this company when they took this company public in US, or the promoters of this company or erstwhile promoters.
So you're saying the company has been as much as a victim, so why should the company actually suffer?
That is exactly our stand. I mean, so we are the victims. I mean, we need to be compensated.
But what is the sense that you've actually gotten from your legal team at this point, who've had conversation with the people who have actually filed the class action lawsuits?
The good news is that everybody agrees that we are the lowest on the totem pole in terms of, being the victims, and at this stage of time, whether the people who are filing the class action suit may or may not agree that we are the victims, at least we are not the primary defendants.
Okay.
So I think, again, typical US legal system. Now there is a lead plaintiff, and that lead plaintiff will start discussing.
But in terms of figures, because we've seen all sorts of numbers doing the rounds, even before you actually, did the deal with Satyam. What is the sense that you're getting in terms of realistic liabilities?
I can only tell you is that at least the numbers that are being thrown back at us are not as big or as wild as what you hear in the UK
Okay,
case.
no. Okay, not as big or as wild. They were talking about $1 billion. So what are we actually talking about, Mr. Gurunani?
I think we're still talking in terms of, honestly, this case hasn't gone into that level of either discussion on maturity. We've not even had a chance to even have one meeting with plaintiff, because plaintiffs are still meeting. Significantly
under $1 billion, significantly under 500 million. What is the sense?
Honestly, Shireen, there's not been one discussion as yet. So there is no point in my trying to put a number here.
Okay.
All I can tell you is that there are 3 legal firms which advised us before we went in for this bidding.
Yeah.
And we have retained one of them. And that one firm that we have retained believes that our claim is the claim on us is very, very low.
Very, very low.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we'll take a quick commercial break, but I want to talk to you about the meeting that you've just had with the US SEC, restatement of accounts. There's a lot to talk actually about in terms of rebuilding Mahindra, Satyam. We'll discuss that and more on the appointment after this very short break. Welcome back. You're watching The Appointment. We're in conversation with CP Gurunani, the CEO of Mahindra Satyam. Mr. Gurunani, you've just had a meeting with US SEC officials. They visited Hyderabad. They've also met with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. What is the sense that you're actually getting? Because the last time I spoke with Deepak Parekh, when he was still a government-appointed nominee on the board of the company, he said that you would actually seek a waiver from SEBI in terms of a full restatement of accounts. You could even approach them for a partial restatement of accounts because of the time that this whole process was actually taking. Where do things currently stand?
I think let's first understand the objectives of this SEC team's visit. And it was not only SEC. I mean, we have the good fortune of dealing with the other regulator, which is the SEBI also.
Right.
So both the regulators' teams were there in Hyderabad last week. And they not only spoke to us as management, but they also spoke to the law firm. They also spoke to, our appointed accountants, KPMG. And their primary purpose was to understand if the investigation is being done properly.
Okay.
Number two is that we as a firm, are we now put in place a standards of governance which in a way will prevent not only a similar kind of a fraud but also deter any other kind of a fraud.
As you candidly said, you're not dealing with one regulator, you're dealing with two regulators. Can we actually expect any sort of a waiver in terms of a complete restatement of accounts?
I doubt it. I mean, this is not something that was discussed with this team. And I know we have, at least the Chairman Kiran Karnik earlier and Deepak Parekh, they have made efforts with the government to try and get waiver and, be allowed for, because, restating accounts over 5 years, and as you've seen from the CBI reports, I mean, there are, at least impressions, at least some findings.
So you're not really hopeful of any sort of a waiver coming in as far as the restatement of accounts, but December, the timeline for the complete restatement, does that still hold?
I can only speak on behalf of the accountants out here. The accountants believe that yes, by December they should be able to restate the account.